Hi there, and welcome to this tech tip from Will. In this tech tip, I will demonstrate how to upgrade a computer running Windows 7 to Windows 8.1. I will start by discussing the different upgrade paths available for each edition of Windows 7. Next, I will run through the recommended pre-upgrade checks that Microsoft suggests you perform on a Windows 7 computer before you attempt to upgrade it. Once all of these checks have been completed, I will then demonstrate how to perform the upgrade on my Windows 7 computer. So let's get started. Before I discuss the different upgrade paths for Windows 7, I would first like to raise an important point. Upgrading a computer from Windows 7 to Windows 8.1 is not the same as upgrading to Windows 8. The process of upgrading a computer from Windows 7 to Windows 8 is quite different and requires a different level of care. This is a common error made by a lot of desktop administrators, so make sure that you do not make the same mistake. Before you upgrade from Windows 7, I would advise that you first double check that you are definitely upgrading to Windows 8.1 and not to Windows 8. The main difference between the two upgrades is that when you upgrade to Windows 8, you are able to retain all of your software applications, data, and Windows settings. When the upgrade completes, these will still be available to you. However, when you upgrade to Windows 8.1, this is not the case. Upgrading to Windows 8.1 will only retain your data and nothing else. That is, after the upgrade, you will have to reinstall all of your software applications, so make sure you have access to all of the appropriate installation disks, downloads, and license keys before you upgrade. You will also have to reconfigure all of your Windows settings. Now that I have raised this point, I will now move on to our first topic of upgrade paths. Before you upgrade your Windows 7 computer to Windows 8.1, you should be aware of the various upgrade paths that are available to you. That is, the edition of Windows 8.1 that you are able to upgrade to will depend entirely on the version of Windows 7 you are using. There are 6 editions of Windows 7. These are Windows 7 Starter, Windows 7 Home Basic, Windows 7 Home Premium, Windows 7 Professional, Windows 7 Ultimate, and Windows 7 Enterprise. Meanwhile, Windows 8.1 comes in 3 editions, not counting Windows RT. These are Windows 8.1, Windows 8.1 Pro, and Windows 8.1 Enterprise. If you are using Windows 7 Starter, Home Basic, or Home Premium editions, you are able to upgrade to Windows 8.1 or Windows 8.1 Pro. If you are using the Windows 7 Professional or Ultimate editions, you are only able to upgrade to Windows 8.1 Pro. Since Windows 8.1 Enterprise is only available as a download from Microsoft using their volume licensing program, you can only upgrade to this edition from a version of Windows 7 which was also obtained via volume licensing. The only editions of Windows 7 which are available through volume licensing are the Professional and Enterprise editions of Windows 7. Now that all of the upgrade paths are covered, I will now move on to the next topic of pre-upgrade checks. Although Microsoft has made the upgrade process from Windows 7 to Windows 8.1 rather easy and straightforward, upgrading a Windows operating system is never without risk. To help ensure that your upgrade goes as smoothly as possible, Microsoft recommends that you perform a few checks before you upgrade. The last thing you want to do is skip these checks, upgrade your system, and then discover that you have a slow, unresponsive, or even unbootable system. I have upgraded many computers from Windows 7 to Windows 8.1, and, personally, I have never encountered any problems. Even so, I would highly encourage you to take precautions and follow Microsoft best practices and run the checks. The first recommendation from Microsoft is to take a full backup of your Windows 7 computer. That way, if anything goes wrong, you can always recover your operating system and data back to the way it was before the upgrade. Fortunately, Windows 7 comes with its own built-in backup tool called Backup and Restore, which can be accessed from the control panel. The Backup and Restore tool included in Windows 7 fully supports image backups and even allows you to create a bootable recovery disk should your computer become unbootable. I would strongly encourage you to back up your entire Windows 7 system, including all the drives, to an external storage device such as a USB drive, or even to a network location to ensure that nothing is missed. The next recommendation from Microsoft is to confirm that your computer is actually capable of running Windows 8.1. To do this, you should ensure that your computer meets or exceeds the minimum hardware requirements for Windows 8.1. Fortunately, the minimum hardware requirements for Windows 8.1 are not too different from those of Windows 7. That is, if your computer is capable of running Windows 7 without any major performance issues, then there is a good possibility that Windows 8.1 will also run comfortably. Even so, it is well worth double-checking and confirming that this is definitely the case. The first requirement is the processor requirement. Windows 8.1 requires a processor speed of at least 1 GHz or faster. Of course, the faster the processor you have, the better the system will perform. The next requirement is the RAM memory requirement. The amount of RAM you need depends entirely on the architecture of your Windows 7 operating system. If your computer is running a 32-bit version of Windows 7, you are only able to upgrade to a 32-bit version of Windows 8.1. 32-bit versions of Windows 8.1 require at least 1 GB of RAM to run effectively. Likewise, if your computer is running a 64-bit version of Windows 7, you are only able to upgrade to a 64-bit version of Windows 8.1. However, 64-bit versions of Windows 8.1 require at least 2 GB of RAM memory to run effectively. Of course, regardless of the architecture you are using, the more RAM you have, the better. One thing you should keep in mind is that 32-bit versions of Windows are only able to address up to a maximum of 4 GB of RAM. Unfortunately, this is a limitation of the 32-bit architecture, and if you were to install more than 4 GB of RAM in a 32-bit system, Windows will simply ignore it. 64-bit versions of Windows 7, however, are able to address more than 4 GB of RAM. It is worth noting at this point that cross-architecture upgrades are not supported. That is, you cannot upgrade a 32-bit version of Windows to a 64-bit version of Windows. Nor can you upgrade a 64-bit version of Windows to a 32-bit version of Windows. If you attempt to perform a cross-architecture upgrade, you will receive an error message, and the upgrade will fail. Next, you need to ensure that you have enough free hard disk space for the upgrade. During the upgrade, new system files will be written to your computer's hard disk, and older system files will be removed. The act of doing this will cause the files on your hard disk to be reshuffled, so it is important that you have enough free space on your hard disk to act as temporary storage to accommodate the movement of these files. The amount of free hard disk space required to upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 8.1 is poorly documented by Microsoft. Because of this, I would recommend that you aim to meet the hard disk requirements for a clean installation of Windows 8.1. As long as you meet these requirements, you should be okay. 32-bit versions of Windows 8.1 require at least 16 GB of free hard disk space. 64-bit versions of Windows 8.1 require at least 20 GB of free hard disk space. The final requirement you should meet is the graphics card requirement. Windows 8.1 requires a graphics card which is capable of running DirectX 9 with a WDDM driver. DirectX 9 was first released back in 2002 and was superseded with DirectX 10 in 2006 and DirectX 11 in 2009. Therefore, it is highly likely that all modern computers will support this. Since DirectX 9 was also an install requirement for Windows 7, the vast majority of Windows 7 computers should already meet this requirement. Once you are satisfied that your computer meets the minimum hardware requirements for Windows 8.1, the final recommendation from Microsoft is that you download and run the Windows 8.1 Upgrade Assistant tool. The Windows 8.1 Upgrade Assistant is available as a free-of-charge download from Microsoft. In the description of this video, I will provide a link which will take you to the download page. The Windows 8.1 Upgrade Assistant, in a nutshell, is a tool which scans your computer hardware and software applications. The tool is also capable of scanning the peripherals connected to your computer, such as printers, scanners, and digital cameras. The purpose of the scans are to confirm whether or not these devices and programs are compatible with Windows 8.1. When the scan is complete, the Upgrade Assistant will provide you with a compatibility report to identify which of the hardware devices and software applications are compatible with Windows 8.1 and those which may not work. The report could also identify some hardware devices that may require updated drivers or software applications which have been discontinued with Windows 8.1. It is worth noting at this point that the Upgrade Assistant will only report on hardware devices and software applications which have been tested by either Microsoft or by other vendors. Since it is virtually impossible for every hardware device and software application in existence to be tested, you should not expect all items on your computer to be scanned. Now that we have spent some time covering the upgrade paths and the pre-upgrade checks recommended by Microsoft, I will now change over to my Windows 7 Ultimate computer to demonstrate how to perform the upgrade. Before I upgrade this Windows 7 computer to Windows 8.1, I would first like to point out a couple of things. First, if I open all programs from the Start menu, notice that I have installed a copy of Microsoft Office 2013. Next, if I open My Documents, you can see that I have a folder named Will's Folder and a text document named Will's Text Document. I am showing you this to prove a point. If you recall from earlier, when you upgrade a Windows 7 computer to Windows 8.1, the upgrade will keep all of your data. However, you will have to reinstall all of your software applications. When the upgrade is finished, Microsoft Office 2013 will be lost and will have to be reinstalled. But my data will still be present. However, you should still consider making a backup of this before you upgrade. To conform to Microsoft best practices, before I upgrade, I will first run the Windows 8.1 Upgrade Assistant. As you can see, I have already downloaded the Upgrade Assistant onto my desktop. To run a scan of your system, simply double-click the tool. When the tool opens, it will immediately start scanning the computer hardware and software to determine what is compatible with Windows 8.1. This can take a number of minutes to complete. Once the scan is complete, the Upgrade Assistant will provide an overview of what it has found. In my case, I can see that there are 4 applications and hardware devices which are readily compatible with Windows 8.1. Further down, I can see that there is 1 item which may not work with Windows 8.1 and should be reviewed. Lastly, notice that I am being forewarned by the Upgrade Assistant that the 4 applications and devices listed above that are compatible will have to be reinstalled from scratch after upgrading. To get a more detailed report, click the See Compatibility Details link. This will open the Compatibility Details report. Notice that the report is divided up into 2 sections. One for items which need to be reviewed, and the other for items which are confirmed to be compatible. From the list of compatible items, I can see that my mouse, sound card, network adapter, and graphics card are all compatible with Windows 8.1. However, if I do choose to proceed with the upgrade, the Windows 8.1 feature of Secure Boot will not work on this computer. Secure Boot is a new feature that helps to prevent malicious software from loading when the computer first boots up. The fact that this feature is not available isn't a showstopper. It simply means that this feature will not be available to me if I upgrade. When you have finished reviewing the compatibility report, click the Close button. At this point, if I were to continue with the Upgrade Assistant, I will be taken to a screen where I will be able to purchase a copy of Windows 8.1 via download from Microsoft. However, since I already own a copy of Windows 8.1, I will close the Upgrade Assistant. To upgrade to Windows 8.1, insert your operating system DVD into the computer. If I open Windows Explorer, you can see that my Windows 8.1 installation DVD is already inserted into my DVD drive. If I launch the installer, the first screen I will receive is the Get Important Updates page. From here, you have the option to download and install the latest updates, or to skip this. These updates include all of the latest drivers and bug fixes for Windows 8.1. For this reason, I would strongly recommend that you select to download and install the updates. This will, of course, require an internet connection. So that we do not have to wait for the updates to download, on this occasion, I will select not to install the updates and will click the Next button. The next screen is the Product Key screen. Here, you are required to enter the 25-digit alphanumeric key included with your copy of Windows 8.1. Notice that until you enter the product key, you are unable to continue the upgrade. Since it is a good practice to keep your product key confidential, I will skip the video to the next step. The next screen is the License Terms screen. From here, I am required to accept the Microsoft Terms and Conditions by clicking the I accept the license terms checkbox. If you do not agree to the license terms, you cannot install the operating system. After ticking the tick box, click the Accept button. The next screen is the Choose What to Keep screen. Here, you have the choice of what you would like to migrate as part of the upgrade. The Keep Personal Files Only option will migrate all of your data files over to Windows 8.1, whereas the Nothing option will essentially delete all of your data files. Notice that there is no option to retain any of the software applications on the computer. To demonstrate this does work, I will select to keep my personal data files and will then click the Next button. Windows will start to perform some final checks on your computer. This can take a number of minutes to complete. If there are any final items that require your attention, Windows will notify you of these. In this case, notice that I am receiving a notification that I will have to add all of my languages back into Windows 8.1 after the upgrade. Since Windows 7 Ultimate includes support for multiple languages, and since I am upgrading to a copy of Windows 8.1 Pro which supports only the English language, I will lose all of my other languages. To accept any final warning messages you receive, click the OK button. The next screen is the Ready to Install screen. Now that all of the options have been covered, we are now ready to perform the upgrade. The page will quickly remind you that you are about to install a copy of Windows 8.1 and whether or not you have chosen to retain your personal data files. To proceed with the upgrade, click the Install button. The Installing Windows 8.1 screen will then launch. Whilst the operating system is being upgraded, you are able to keep track of its progress with the percentage indicator. Depending on the speed of your computer, this could take anything up to a couple of hours to complete. One point I would like to raise is that during the upgrade, you may find that your computer will reboot. This is by design and is completely normal. Once the upgrade has completed, you will be presented with the traditional Windows 8.1 Windows Welcome screens. The first screen is the Personalise screen. From here, you can choose a colour scheme for your new Windows 8.1 computer. After selecting a colour scheme, click the Next button. The next screen is the Settings screen. Rather than customise the settings, I will simply select to use the default Express settings. At this point, if your Windows 7 user account has a password, you will be prompted to enter it. After entering your password and clicking the Next button, if you have an internet connection, you will, at this point, be given the chance to create a Microsoft account. Since Windows 8 and Windows 8.1 have been redesigned for cloud computing, Microsoft does recommend that you use a Microsoft account rather than the traditional local accounts. If you opt to use Windows 8.1 without a Microsoft account, you will not be able to access many of the new features, most notably the new App Store. Using a Microsoft account also allows other Microsoft services you may be using, such as email, contacts, and messaging, to be synchronized to your computer. If your computer, like mine, is not connected to the internet, Windows 8.1 will continue to use your existing user account from Windows 7. You can always create a Microsoft account later. After making some final configurations, your Windows 7 computer will have been upgraded to Windows 8.1. From the desktop of my Windows 8.1 computer, just to prove that my data from earlier has been migrated over, I will open File Explorer and open My Documents. Notice that the folder and file that I created earlier are both still available. My software applications, however, won't be. If I open Charms from the top right corner and enter 2013 as my search criteria, notice that my Microsoft Office 2013 suite has not been migrated and will have to be reinstalled. This concludes this tech tip from Will. I hope that you have enjoyed this tech tip and found it useful. For more tech tips from Will, please visit our YouTube channel. To help us to continue to make these tech tips, please show your support by liking our videos and by leaving your comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next tech tip.